A record player, oh dear viewer, is a sacred artefact that breathes life into the forgotten melodies engraved on vinyl discs. It's a vessel that carries our souls back to a bygone era where music thrived in its purest form. This magnificent invention, with its mesmerising spinning platter and delicate needle, enchants us with its warmth and depth of sound. Ah, but what of the turntable, you may ask? It is the refined cousin of the record player, meticulously designed for audiophiles who seek a more precise and immersive musical experience. With its superior craftsmanship, the turntable unveils the subtle nuances and intricacies hidden within each groove, rendering it a coveted treasure for discerning ears. So, dear viewer, whether you choose a record player or a turntable, embrace the magic they bring, for they are the gatekeepers to a harmony that transcends time. So where does your music come from? Spotify, obviously, but if it's an audiophile day-to-day, will your music come from a record player or a turntable? This is an interesting question of what we should call that spinny thing that makes those scratchy, clicky noises with a bit of music in the background. The obvious answer is a turntable, of course. Who would ever call it a record player? Someone whose taste in audio goes no further than a Crosley or Dansette. Actually, Dansette is now collectible and you could pay 500 to 600 Great British pounds or more for one. Maybe buy your Crosley now and wait while it appreciates. So, why doesn't Mr. or Mrs. Audiophile have a record player? Well, it seems that the consensus is that a record player should be the whole deal. You put on a record, start it up, and sound comes out. It's the whole system in a box, a cabinet. Here's one now at Peppermill Interiors. £100 seems like a bargain. Oh, there's a radio too, we'll ignore that. But obviously an audiophile, or even a mere hi-fi enthusiast, isn't going to be satisfied with a standalone record player. It's simply not enough equipment. There has to be more equipment. How can anyone enjoy music without equipment? So the audiophile or hi-fi enthusiast needs a turntable. But this is where things get confusing. I'm a bit old school and this isn't a turntable. OK, clever clogs, tell us all in the comments what's odd about this one. Anyway, the reason it isn't a turntable is that it already has the tone arm fitted, sometimes called pickup arm, but I'll stick with tone arm. It has a turntable, but the turntable is just part of what you see. But it isn't a record player either. It doesn't have a phono preamp, it doesn't have an amplifier, and it doesn't have a speaker. At least it has a cabinet. Now, this to me is a turntable. This is a Garrard 401, just like I had many years ago. You'll notice that there's no woody bit below the top plate. That's because it's a turntable, and a turntable needs a plinth. I made my own. Fortunately, a cutting template was supplied, so all I had to do was to be handy with a jigsaw. So, once the turntable is happy resting in its plinth, waiting for the tone arm and cartridge to be fitted, it's a turntable in a plinth. A turntable in a plinth. But if so many people are calling the whole shebang a turntable, what should we call what I call a turntable? I have a Google, and of course I've used it. Turntable chassis seem to be a contender, but this is often used to refer to the bare metal on which all the mechanical components and the platter are mounted. There's another word, platter. At least this doesn't seem to be contentious. And another term, base plate. That's what Garrard calls the bare metal. So I'm stuck here. What do we call this? It's a turntable, no plinth, no arm, no cartridge, and no stylus. And what do we call this? A turntable in a plinth with tone arm, cartridge, and stylus. No preamp, no amplifier, no speakers. Answers in the comments, please. See you soon.
That movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, I really enjoyed it.
So did I, but did you see that mistake?
I did. It's a Garrard 401 turntable.
And he used the fine speed control to turn down the volume.